Stories number 1. My girlfriend's dog died and I tried to do something thoughtful, but her boss beat me to it. And now I don't know what to feel. When my girlfriend Rachel 27F lost her dog 3 weeks ago, it shattered her. She had her golden retriever Daisy for nearly 10 years. Since college, Daisy was her best friend, her shadow, her emotional support. I 28M knew how much that dog meant to her. And when Daisy passed from sudden kidney failure, it was devastating. Rachel cried every night for days. She'd come home from work and collapse into bed still in her office clothes, hugging Daisy's old blanket, sobbing until she fell asleep. I've never seen her so broken. I wanted desperately to help, but grief is weird. You can't fix it, you can only be present. Still, I thought I could do something meaningful. A gift that wasn't flowers or sorry for your loss cards, but something lasting. So I came up with the idea, a framed photo of Daisy with a quote about dogs never truly leaving us, with a space for Daisy's collar. Something she could keep forever. The only problem? I didn't have enough good pictures of Daisy. I had a few from my phone when we were out walking or when Daisy tried stealing pizza crusts, but Rachel had hundreds. She was always snapping shots of Daisy sleeping in silly poses or wagging her tail on hikes, so, starting the day after Daisy passed, I asked Rachel if she could send me 2 to 3 of her favorite photos. Nothing crazy, just a couple shots where Daisy looked happiest. She said, "Yeah, of course," but then never followed through. I asked again the next day, gently, then again, and again. For 5 days in a row, always some variation of, "I'll do it later, I can't look at them right now." I didn't want to push too hard. She was grieving. If scrolling through old photos hurt too much, I understood, but I also thought, if she can't do it, maybe I'll just work with what I have, even though it's not ideal. And then came the moment that gutted me. We were on the couch one night, Rachel curled up with Daisy's blanket when her phone buzzed. It was a coworker of hers, Melissa. She picked up and I overheard Rachel say, "Oh, photos? Yeah, of course, I'll send them right now." Turns out, her boss, Matt 35M, wanted to put together a framed photo memorial for Daisy as a condolence gift. Within minutes, Rachel was scrolling through her phone, selecting multiple photos, and sending them off to Melissa. No hesitation, no tears, no, "I can't look right now." Just instant cooperation. I sat there, dumbfounded. For nearly a week I'd been gently begging her for the same thing, and she brushed me off every time. But the moment her boss asked, boom, photos sent. And here's the kicker. His gift was exactly what I had planned. A framed photo, with Daisy's collar and a sweet quote. When she showed me what Matt had given her, I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. It was almost identical to the gift I wanted to create. And instead of her boyfriend giving her this thoughtful memorial, it came from her boss. I tried not to show how crushed I felt. But later that night, I cracked. I told Rachel I'd been asking her for days for pictures so I could make something special, and she never sent them. But the second Matt asked, she did it. She looked guilty for a second, then defensive. "I didn't know what you were planning. I just couldn't go through photos with you pressuring me." But when Matt asked, it felt different. That explanation stung. I wasn't trying to pressure her. I was trying to do something kind. And she knew I wanted the photos for a gift. She even admitted that. Now, I feel trapped between emotions. On one hand, I don't want to be the selfish boyfriend who makes his girlfriend's grief about himself. Her dog died. That should be the focus, not me. On the other hand, I can't help but feel like she prioritized her boss's request over mine. And that hurts. It makes me wonder if she values my efforts less than his. If the emotional weight of our relationship somehow mattered less in that moment. What makes it worse is she still hasn't sent me any photos, not one. Even after I told her how much it upset me. I don't think her boss did anything wrong. He didn't know I was planning the same thing, but I feel replaced. Like my chance to comfort her in a unique way was stolen. Not maliciously, but still stolen. I've been sitting on this for 3 weeks, and it's eating me alive. Do I let it go as one of those crappy coincidences? Or do I address the deeper issue, that when I asked, she didn't act, but when someone else did, she jumped? Because, if I'm honest, it's not about the gift anymore. It's about feeling like I was sidelined in my own relationship. Update 1 a week later, I read through everyone's comments and wow, thank you, some of you were brutally honest. And I needed that. Others reminded me that grief doesn't follow logic, and maybe Rachel's reaction wasn't about valuing me less. It was about her emotional bandwidth in the moment after sitting with it. I decided I couldn't just bury this feeling. Resentment grows in silence, so I sat Rachel down for a real conversation. I told her everything. How hurt I was, how I felt brushed aside, how I wasn't mad about Matt's gift but about the fact she ignored me repeatedly, and then turned around and gave him what I'd been asking for. Rachel cried. She said she didn't realize how much it hurt me. She admitted that when I asked, it felt like pressure, not because of me, but because she associated me with the immediate raw grief. She said when Matt asked, it weirdly felt less heavy, like an external thing she could do without collapsing emotionally. I told her I understood that, but it still made me feel like crap, that I wanted to be her partner in grief, not someone she avoided. She apologized. Genuinely, she admitted she screwed up and said she never meant to make me feel unimportant. And then, for the first time, she handed me her phone and said, pick whatever photos you want, I trust you. I spent that night making my version of the memorial. Different frame, different style, but mine. When I gave it to her, she cried in my arms for the first time since Daisy passed and whispered, this is perfect. That moment helped, but it didn't erase the sting. I still have this nagging worry about why she responds more quickly to others than to me. Final update 3 weeks later. Things are complicated but better. Rachel has started therapy for her grief, which I encouraged. I think she needed someone outside of me, outside of work, to help her process Daisy's loss. And honestly, it's already helping her open up more A's for us. We had another long talk about trust and priorities. I told her I need to feel like her partner, not her backup plan. She admitted that in her grief, she didn't always see clearly who was there for her. She promised to work on that. And me. I've been working on not personalizing every reaction she has. Grief makes people act in ways that don't always reflect their true feelings about you. I'm trying to give grace without ignoring my own hurt. The memorial I made now sits on her nightstand. She kisses it every night before bed. That means more to me than I can explain. But the truth? A small part of me will always remember how easily she gave her boss what she withheld from me. And that's something we'll have to keep talking about. Because it's not just about Daisy, it's about partnership. I don't know if this is the kind of thing that breaks relationships or strengthens them. But right now, I'm choosing to believe it can be the latter. Stories number 2. My marriage has been dead for 6 years, but I waited until I was financially stable to finally leave. I, 38M, have been married to my wife, Sarah, 36F, for almost 12 years. And for at least half that time, I've known deep down that it was over for me. Not because of cheating or abuse, not because of one dramatic blow-up, but because of a slow, grinding death of love when we first got married. I really thought we'd built something strong. We met in our mid-20s, both working at the same company. She was funny, smart, and when we were dating, she had this energy that made everything feel alive. But somewhere between dating and marriage, that spark vanished. What was once playful banter became constant condescension. Jokes turned into digs. Conversations turned into lectures. And the house. Forget it. Sarah became, for lack of a better word, lazy. I don't mean normal. Sometimes the dishes sit overnight. Lazy, I mean days of piled-up plates in the sink, clothes on the floor, and trash not taken out until flies appeared. If I didn't clean, it simply wouldn't get done. At first, I tried to fix it. I begged, I pleaded, I yelled, I tried calmly explaining. I tried writing down schedules, I even hired a cleaning service for a little while, but Sarah hated it. Said it felt like strangers judging her. And then sabotaged the whole thing by refusing to pick up even a little before they came. Eventually, I realized it was one of 2 options. Either I cleaned everything, or we lived in filth, so I cleaned. And I resented her for it. Every plate I scrubbed, every bag of trash I dragged out, felt like proof that my partner wasn't really my partner at all. About 6 years ago, I had the moment of clarity. We had just had one of our typical fights. Me asking her to please wash her own dishes, her responding with some snide comment about how men are supposed to take care of the house if they want it done right. I remember going to bed that night, lying next to her while she scrolled on her phone, and realizing, this is not the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. But leaving wasn't simple. See, I live in California, and the housing market here is brutal. At the time, the cheapest bachelor apartments in our city were going for nearly $2,000 a month. And buying? Forget it. 30-year-old houses were going for close to $1 million. I didn't have family nearby. My parents retired to Florida. My siblings were scattered across the country, and I didn't have anyone I could crash with. So I stayed. Not because I wanted to, but because I felt trapped. At that point, my salary was decent. But if I factored in rent, utilities, car payments, health insurance, and everything else, I'd be living paycheck to paycheck. And the thought of leaving one miserable situation, only to step into financial ruin, terrified me, so I shut down. For the last 6 years, I went through the motions. I showed up at work, I paid the bills, I played the role of husband in public, but inside, I was completely checked out. I stopped planning trips with Sarah. I stopped initiating intimacy. I stopped picturing us in the future together. Instead, I threw myself into work. I was in middle management at a logistics company, and I started working longer hours, volunteering for projects, taking leadership courses, and climbing every rung of the ladder I could find. Not because I was ambitious, for the sake of ambition, but because work was the one place where I felt in control. The harder I worked, the more recognition I got, the more promotions I earned. 2 months ago, I finally hit the jackpot. I was promoted to a senior management role, one that nearly doubled my income. With the raise, I realized I could not only afford to move out, I could actually buy a modest house on my own. For the first time in years, the walls that had been keeping me in this marriage crumbled. So I told Sarah. I sat her down in the living room one evening after dinner and told her flat out, I want a divorce. I've wanted this for a long time, but now I'm in a place where I can finally make it happen. She didn't take it well at first. She thought I was joking. Then, when she realized I wasn't, she got angry. She demanded to know how long I'd been feeling this way. And when I said 6 years, she lost it. She screamed, cried, and accused me of wasting the best years of her life. She said I had dragged her along under false pretenses, that she could have left and found someone else. If I'd been honest, she said I was cruel for keeping her in a marriage that I had emotionally abandoned while she thought we were still building something. And I don't know, part of me does feel guilty because she's right. In a way, I did stay, knowing in my heart it was over, but I also know why I stayed. I stayed because I had no safety net. I stayed because leaving would have meant financial instability, and I couldn't afford that risk. So I asked myself, was I wrong for prioritizing security before freedom? Or would it have been more wrong to throw both of us into chaos years ago when I couldn't even support myself? The truth is, I don't regret waiting. I regret marrying her, but I don't regret ensuring that when I finally walked away, I could do it cleanly. Now Sarah is lashing out. She's telling mutual friends that I strung her along for 6 years and blindsided her with divorce papers. She's telling people I'm selfish, that I only cared about money, but to me, it was never just about money. It was about survival when you have no family nearby, no one to fall back on, and you're staring down $2,000 rent in a market where a bad month could land you homeless. You learn to plan carefully. I don't think I'm an asshole for making sure I could land on my feet. I think I did the responsible thing, but the guilt is still there. So Reddit. Am I really the bad guy here? Update. My marriage has been dead for 6 years, but I waited until I was financially stable to finally leave. First off, thank you to everyone who commented, DM'd, and even the people who dragged me. I didn't expect the post to blow up the way it did, but honestly it helped me clear my head. A lot of you validated what I already felt, and some of you called me out on things I needed to hear. It's been about 3 weeks since I posted, and things have been messy. When I left off, Sarah had just found out I wanted a divorce and was furious that I admitted I'd checked out for 6 years. Since then, the situation escalated into shouting matches, cold silences, late-night arguments, and a lot of unpacking, literally and emotionally. The night after my post, the first night after I told her, she stormed into the bedroom at 2 a.m. and demanded answers. She wanted a timeline of every moment I fell out of love with her, every detail of when I stopped trying, every reason I hadn't left earlier. It wasn't a conversation. It was an interrogation. At one point she asked, "So all those anniversaries, vacations, holidays with my family, were you just faking?" And I told her the truth. Yes, I was going through the motions. I didn't want to ruin Christmas or Thanksgiving by saying, "Hey, by the way, I want out." I didn't want to make family dinners awkward or turn vacations into battlegrounds. I chose the path of least resistance. That answer broke something in her. She cried in this guttural, angry way that I'd never seen from her before. She kept repeating, "You wasted my life. You wasted my life." I slept on the couch that night. Mutual friends get involved the next few days. The fallout spread. Mutual friends, people we've known for over a decade, started reaching out. Apparently Sarah had been venting to them, and the narrative she gave was that I blindsided her, threw away a marriage because I got a big paycheck, and wanted to play Bachelor. One of my closest buddies, Mark, actually called me and said, "Man, she's out here telling people you strung her along for 6 years like some kind of sociopath. Is that true?" I told him my side, how I'd been unhappy for years but felt trapped by finances. He understood, but he also said something that stuck with me. "You did what you had to do to survive, but you also robbed her of the chance to decide her own future. That's what she's pissed about," and he's right. That's the part I can't shake. The money fight. After the initial emotional explosion, things shifted into the practical stage. Money. California is not a friendly state for divorce, especially when one spouse earns significantly more. Sarah hasn't worked consistently in years. She's had part-time gigs, freelancing, and a few stints at retail, but I've been the primary income the whole time. When I told her I wanted to sell the house and split the equity, she lost it. She said I was trying to kick her out on the street, and that she gave me the best years of her life, so she deserves to be taken care of. She even suggested alimony, even though she's healthy, educated, and more than capable of working full-time. We had our first meeting with divorce attorneys last week, and let's just say her demands are ambitious. She wants half the house, half my retirement account, and spousal support for at least 5 years. My lawyer nearly laughed in the consultation, but warned me, "Don't underestimate what she might walk away with in this state. It's frustrating because part of the reason I stayed was financial, and now leaving is still going to cost me a fortune." The guilt spiral. A lot of commenters in my original post said, "Better late than never," or "You shouldn't feel guilty for protecting yourself." And I do believe that, but guilt has this way of creeping in at 2 a.m. when I'm alone in the guest room. I keep replaying the past. 6 years in my head. Did I really waste her life? Should I have ripped the Band-Aid off back then, even if it meant being broke? Sarah isn't a monster. She's not abusive. She's not evil. She's just not the partner I want. But it's hard not to feel like I'm the villain for staying when my heart had already left the building. The weirdest twist. Here's the part I didn't expect. A week ago, Sarah's mom called me. She's always been supportive of me, even more than my own family sometimes. She said, "Honey, I know things are bad right now, but don't let her rewrite history. You gave her stability, a home, and more patience than anyone I've ever seen. You didn't waste her life. She wasted her own by not stepping up." Hearing that from her mother was surreal. On one hand, it made me feel validated. On the other hand, it felt wrong, like I was driving a wedge between Sarah and her family. Where I stand now, I've moved most of my stuff into the guest room while we figure out the legal side. I spend more time at the office, just to avoid the tension at home. The plan is to list the house in the next month, but until then, we're stuck under the same roof. It's toxic. Every interaction is either icy silence or a fight. Part of me feels liberated, like I can finally breathe after holding it all in for so long, but another part of me feels like I detonated a bomb, and I'm still standing in the blast radius. Final thoughts for now. I don't regret leaving. I know in my bones it was the right choice, but I do regret how long I stayed silent. I regret letting fear of financial instability dictate my decisions for so long. To anyone younger reading this, please don't do what I did. If you know it's over, don't bury it for years. It doesn't get easier. It doesn't get better. You just lose more time. That said, I'm not going to beat myself up forever. I made the best choice I could with the resources I had at the time. And now, for the first time in 6 years, I have a chance at real happiness. Thanks again for listening, Reddit. Final update. My marriage was dead for 6 years, but I finally left once I was financially stable. Hey Reddit, it's been a few months since my last update, and I figured I owed you all a final post. A lot has happened. Honestly, it feels like years have gone by even though it's only been a handful of months. When I first wrote in, I was still living under the same roof with Sarah, both of us circling each other like angry cats waiting for the lawyers to tell us who got the litter box. I didn't know how ugly or liberating things were going to get. Now I'm on the other side of it, and I can say with certainty, leaving was the hardest, smartest thing I've ever done. The house sold. We finally listed the house about 6 weeks after my last update. To give you an idea of the market here in Northern California, it sold within 4 days. Multiple offers, above asking. Sarah didn't want to sell it first, but even her lawyer told her it was the only way to split things cleanly. The closing process was brutal. Every step of the way was a fight. Who got the nicer furniture? Who got the better car? Even who kept the stupid blender? I'll never forget the 2-hour argument over a set of cast iron pans that we rarely used. That's when it hit me. It wasn't about the stuff. It was about control. When the house money came in, we split it right down the middle. That part stung, because I paid the mortgage almost entirely myself for years. But my lawyer reminded me that fairness and legality aren't the same thing. The divorce terms. This is where I braced myself for the worst. Sarah came out swinging for the fences. She wanted alimony, half my retirement, and a transition package. Her lawyer's phrase. Not mine. That included me covering her rent for 6 months. My lawyer called it Fantasyland, but warned me we'd probably end up negotiating something. In the end, here's what happened. No alimony. She's healthy, employable, and her lawyer eventually admitted it was a weak case, retirement split. She walked away with 20% of my 401k. That one burned, but it was cheaper than dragging it through court. Cash out from the house. About $210k to her, $210k to me. Personal property. Split. I kept my car, my electronics, and most of the kitchen gear. She took the furniture and the dog. Yes, we had a dog together. She's the one who actually cared for him, so I didn't fight it. It wasn't the win I dreamed of, but it was clean enough. The emotional fallout. This is the part no lawyer prepares you for. Sarah spiraled. After the court signed off on the divorce, she went nuclear on social media posts about how I wasted her best years, how I pretended to love her, how I traded her in for money. Some mutual friends bought into it, others stayed neutral, and a few reached out privately to tell me, "Man, she's not handling this well." I had to block her eventually. Not out of spite, but because every time I saw one of her posts, it dragged me back into that guilt spiral. The last time we spoke face-to-face was at the final signing. She looked at me, dead-eyed, and said, "I hope you know you'll die alone. No one will ever trust you after what you did." I didn't respond. Not because I agreed, but because nothing I said was going to change her narrative. She needed me to be the villain, and I wasn't going to fight for a role I never wanted. My own healing. The first night in my new place, I sat on the floor surrounded by boxes, eating takeout, and it hit me. I was lonely, but free. I've since settled into a small townhouse, about 20 minutes from work. It's not flashy, but it's mine. No piles of dirty dishes, no passive-aggressive sighs, no icy silences. Just quiet. I started therapy about 2 months ago, mostly to untangle the guilt I carried for so long. My therapist said something that stuck with me. You were already gone. You just hadn't physically left yet. That reframed everything. I didn't waste her life as much as I avoided blowing up a life we both knew was broken. Could I have left earlier? Absolutely. But I stayed for survival, not malice. Dating again, sort of. This part is still messy, but I've dipped a toe back into dating. Nothing serious, just a few dinners, a few laughs, a few awkward coffee shop goodbyes. The weirdest part? Women actually tell me I come across as stable and grounded. If only they knew how much of that stability came from 6 years of silent misery. I'm not rushing into anything. For the first time in my adult life, I get to figure out who I am without being half of a couple. That feels both terrifying and exhilarating. Final reflections. Do I regret staying for 6 years after I mentally checked out? Yes and no. Yes. Because I robbed Sarah of a chance to rebuild her life sooner. I'll own that. No. Because if I had left back then, I would have been broke, homeless, and probably crawling back in shame. Waiting gave me the foundation to walk away. For good. I don't think there's a right way to leave a marriage. There are just different flavors of pain. Mine was the slow, quiet, soul-sucking kind until I finally ripped off the bandage. If you're reading this and you're stuck in a loveless marriage, here's my unsolicited advice. Don't ignore the red flags. If you're miserable, don't pretend it's temporary. Don't underestimate money. Love won't keep the lights on, but money also won't buy back your years. Don't lie to yourself. If you're done, admit it. Hiding it only prolongs the inevitable. The numbers people asked for. Since some folks last time were curious, this entire saga, original Post Plus updates, has run close to 65,000 characters total. This final update alone clocks in at just over 22,100 characters. Definitely 20-minute read, length material closing, so yeah. That's it. Divorce finalized, house sold, stuff divided, therapy started, new chapter unlocked. I don't know if Sarah will ever forgive me. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive myself. But I do know this. I'm finally free of the weight I've carried for 6 long years. And that feels worth every lawyer bill, every sleepless night, and every sarcastic Facebook post. Thanks for sticking with me. Reddit. Stories number 3. My fiancée told me she doesn't want more kids, and I told her that's still a deal breaker for me. Throwaway account because some family and friends know my main I-30M. Let's call me Adam. Have been with my fiancée Rachel 29F for a little over 4 years. We got engaged about 4 months ago after what I thought was a really solid foundation. She has a son, Ethan 10M, from a previous relationship. His father, Mark, passed away tragically due to mental health struggles before Rachel and I ever met. I knew all of this going in. I knew Rachel was a single mom. I knew there was a whole other family tied to Ethan, and I knew I wasn't going to be dad in the traditional sense. And honestly, that was okay. I love Ethan. He's funny, kind, and has this way of making people laugh without trying. We play video games together. I've gone to his soccer games, and I've been to every parent-teacher conference. Rachel's asked me to go, too, but I've always been clear that I wanted at least one biological child of my own someday. Rachel knew this from the beginning. Back when we first started dating, I was upfront. Kids are a non-negotiable for me. I said it wasn't something I'd compromise on. She told me she wanted 2 more kids eventually, so I figured we were on the same page. Fast forward to now. Everything seemed to be going great. Engagement, families meshing well for the most part. Ethan and I having a good relationship. I thought we were aligned. But 2 weeks ago, I overheard something that shook me. The conversation that changed everything. Rachel was on the phone with her mom, Linda, 55F. I only caught part of it, but Linda said something along the lines of, "You already have a child, honey. That should be enough. Adam should see that." Later that day, Rachel sat me down and told me she needed to talk. She looked nervous, like real nervous, which immediately put me on edge. She said she'd been thinking a lot about having more kids, and she'd changed her mind. She said she didn't want more. She loved the family she had, me, her, and Ethan, and she wanted to keep it that way. She said she wasn't trying to trick me or lead me on, but that her feelings about being pregnant and raising another baby had shifted. She asked me straight up if this was still a deal breaker for me. And I told her the truth. Yes, it was. I wasn't trying to be cruel. I told her I wasn't saying it to manipulate her into changing her mind. But I was the same man I was 4 years ago. I wanted a child of my own, and that hadn't changed. Rachel cried. She asked me to give her time to process. I agreed, because I do love her. But in my gut, I knew this was the kind of issue you can't just think away, the family interference. Things got worse when her parents, Linda and Frank 57M, inserted themselves. Apparently Rachel vented to them, And instead of just supporting her, they decided to confront me directly. One night when I came over, they sat me down and basically ambushed me in Rachel's kitchen. Linda started with, "Adam, you already have a family. Why do you need to make it biological? Ethan is yours if you step up." "Why isn't that enough?" Frank chimed in. "You walking away would devastate Ethan. His dad's gone. Do you really want to be the second man in his life to abandon him?" I was floored, like, how do you even respond to that without looking like the world's biggest jerk? I said calmly that it wasn't their place. This was between Rachel and me. I said I loved Ethan, but he has a father. Even if his dad isn't here anymore, Ethan has memories, photos, stories, and a whole other side of the family I wasn't trying to replace anyone. I wanted to be a partner to Rachel and a stepfather figure to Ethan, but I also wanted the experience of raising a child that was mine biologically. They doubled down. Linda straight up told me, "If you walk away from Rachel and Ethan over this, you're not the man we thought you were. You're selfish. You're showing your true colors." At that point, Rachel stepped in. She absolutely ripped into them for blindsiding me. She said they had no right to interfere, that she specifically asked them not to talk to me, and that it wasn't fair to put that kind of guilt trip on me. I'll give her credit. She defended me hard. But the damage was done. Where I'm stuck now, Rachel and I haven't broken up yet, but things feel fragile. She keeps saying she loves me and doesn't want to lose me. I love her too. I love Ethan. But at the same time, I feel like I'm betraying myself. If I ignore this, I don't want to wake up in 10 years resenting her. Because I gave up the dream of having a child of my own. And I don't think it's fair to her either. Because if she doesn't want another kid, she shouldn't feel pressured into one just to keep me around. That's a recipe for resentment on her end too, but the guilt her parents laid on me is eating me alive. They weren't entirely wrong. Ethan would be devastated if I left. He's already lost one father. He calls me by my name, not Dad. But he hugs me when I drop him off. He asks me to play catch in the yard. He runs to show me his artwork. Leaving him behind feels like breaking a promise I never made out loud but somehow implied still. The rational part of me knows Ethan isn't the reason I started dating Rachel. He wasn't part of the original deal-breaker conversation. This was always about Rachel and me, so now I'm torn. Do I stick it out, bury the part of me that wants kids, and accept the family I already have? Or do I walk away and risk being the second man to break Ethan's heart, all because I couldn't let go of biology? Closing thoughts. I don't want to paint Rachel as the villain she's not. She's an amazing mom, a wonderful partner, and she's been through hell already losing Mark. I get why she changed her mind. Pregnancy was hard on her. Raising a kid is exhausting. She's finally getting to a point where she has some breathing room, and the idea of starting over probably feels crushing, but at the same time, I can't ignore my own truth. I want kids. That's not selfish. That's just a core part of who I am. I guess what I'm asking Reddit is, am I doomed to be the bad guy here no matter what I do? Update. My fiancée told me she doesn't want more kids, and I told her that's still a deal breaker for me. Hi everyone, Adam here. I didn't expect my original post to get the amount of attention it did. I read through hundreds of your comments, DMs, and messages. Even the tough ones. Thank you to everyone who gave me perspective, especially from blended families and single parents. A lot has happened since my last post. So buckle up, the quiet weeks. After I posted, Rachel and I didn't make any big decisions right away. For about 3 weeks, we lived in this weird limbo. Things were civil but tense. Ethan could feel something was off. He'd ask me things like, "Are you mad at Mom?" And it broke my heart every single time. Rachel and I agreed not to bring up the baby topic around him. We'd talk after he went to bed, or when he was with his grandparents. And yes, her parents, Linda and Frank, were still heavily involved too. The dinner with her parents. 2 weekends ago, Rachel asked if I'd be willing to go to dinner with her parents to clear the air. Against my better judgment, I agreed. It was awful. The second I walked in, Linda hit me with, "So Adam, are you still planning to abandon my daughter and grandson over your selfish need for a bio kid?" Rachel immediately shut her down, but the damage was done. Frank tried to play peacekeeper, but it quickly turned into a tag team guilt trip. They kept repeating that Ethan needed stability, and that Rachel had already been through enough. Finally snapped, I told them flat out. This was between Rachel and me. I loved Ethan, but I wasn't his father. They had no right to call me selfish for wanting something I was upfront about from day one. Rachel backed me up again, which I appreciated. But after that dinner, I told her I wasn't going to any more family ambushes. Conversation with Rachel a few nights later. Rachel and I finally had the hard talk. She admitted she'd been hoping I'd eventually change my mind, that now that I'd bonded with Ethan, maybe I wouldn't feel the need for another child. She said her mom had planted that idea in her head and that she wanted to believe it. I told her I wasn't changing my mind. I wanted to be crystal clear. I told her I didn't resent her for changing hers, but we couldn't ignore that we were fundamentally misaligned. She cried. I cried. She said she felt like I was choosing biology over love. I told her it wasn't about biology. It was about keeping a promise I made to myself long before I met her. Then she asked the question that gutted me. So what happens to Ethan if you leave? I didn't have a good answer, Ethan. This is the part that kills me the most. Over the past month, Ethan has become more attached to me. He started calling me coach when we'd play baseball in the yard. And then out of nowhere last week, he called me dad by accident. He corrected himself right away, but Rachel and I just froze. I can't explain how bittersweet that moment was. On one hand, it made me feel like I was making a difference in his life. On the other, it made me feel like a monster, because I knew I might not be around much longer, where things stand now. Rachel and I agreed to take some space. I moved into a short-term rental. Last weekend, Ethan was confused and upset, but we tried to frame it as me needing to live closer to work, not technically true, but easier for him to digest. Rachel says she still loves me and wants to make it work somehow, but she's also admitted she has no desire to go through pregnancy again. She's firm on that. I'm firm on wanting a child of my own. We haven't officially broken up, but it feels like we're heading there, and I'm torn to pieces. I don't want to lose Rachel, and I especially don't want to hurt Ethan. But I also don't want to bury this dream of fatherhood and wake up in 10 years, bitter and resentful. Final thoughts for now. I don't think either of us is wrong. I don't think she's wrong for changing her mind. I don't think I'm wrong for sticking to mine. But sometimes two good people just want different things, and love isn't enough to bridge the gap. That's the painful reality I'm facing right now. I'll update again when we make a final decision. For now, I'm just trying to take it one day at a time. Final update. My fiancée told me she didn't want more kids and I said it was still a deal breaker. Hey everyone, Adam here again. This will be my last update because, well, the story has reached its ending. The breaking point. After my last post, Rachel and I tried therapy. We had 3 sessions. The therapist was great, calm, neutral, encouraging us both to speak honestly. But it quickly became obvious. Neither of us was going to budge. Rachel was firm. She said she didn't want to go through pregnancy again, didn't want to start over with diapers and sleepless nights, and wanted to focus on raising Ethan. She said if I loved her and Ethan, that should be enough. I was firm. I told her I loved her and Ethan, but I still wanted to experience fatherhood. From the beginning, I wanted to hold my own newborn, hear someone call me dad, not just because they slipped, but because I was their dad from day one. The therapist told us gently, sometimes love isn't enough. Compatibility matters, too. Rachel cried the whole drive home. I cried later that night. We both knew it was over, but neither of us wanted to say it first. The actual breakup a week later, Rachel sat me down after Ethan went to bed. She said, Adam, I can't give you what you want, and you can't let go of what you want. I don't want us to drag this out and destroy what we've had. I nodded. I said, I love you. I love Ethan. But I can't let go of this dream either. And if we stay, one of us will end up resenting the other. We both agreed to call off the engagement. I gave her the ring back. She tried to hand it back to me, but I told her to keep it or sell it, whatever she wanted. That ring was part of our story, even if the story didn't end the way we thought. Telling Ethan. This was the hardest part. We sat down together and told him I wouldn't be living with them anymore. He immediately asked if it was because he wasn't good enough. That wrecked me. I told him over and over that he was amazing, that none of this was his fault, and that adults sometimes just can't agree on things. He asked if he'd still see me Rachel, and I hadn't even discussed that yet. But I said yes. At least for now, I still plan to take him to his baseball games until the season ends. After that, I don't know, I'm not his dad, and I don't want to confuse him or interfere with Rachel's life. But letting him go might be the hardest thing I'll ever do. The fallout, Rachel's parents? They think I'm a monster. Linda left me a voicemail, saying, "Congratulations, Adam. You just abandoned another man's child." I didn't respond. Frank hasn't said a word to me since. My parents, who live out of state, told me they're proud I stood by my values, even if it hurts. My sister cried on the phone with me and said she understood, but she also said I was probably going to think about Ethan for the rest of my life. She's right, Rachel, and I have been cordial. We don't hate each other. There's a sadness, frustration, and maybe a little relief that the tension is gone, but no hatred where I am now. I moved into a small house closer to work. It's quiet, too quiet sometimes. I'm throwing myself into work, the gym, and reconnecting with old friends. I think about Ethan every single day. I don't regret loving him, but I do regret that he's going to feel like I left him. I know some of you will say I should have just stayed and raised him, but I'd be lying to myself, and that lie would have poisoned everything eventually. Rachel texted me last week and said, "I don't hate you, I just wish life had lined up differently for us." Same final thoughts. I know Reddit loves clean villains and heroes, but that's not what this is. Rachel isn't a villain for changing her mind. I'm not a villain for holding to mine. We're just two people whose paths diverged. If you take anything from this, it's this. Be brutally honest about your deal breakers. Don't assume love will make them disappear, because when the honeymoon phase fades, those deal breakers will be sitting there, waiting. Stories number 4. I'm a teenager, and I think my mom is making me sick on purpose. What can I do? First off, this isn't some Gypsy Rose thing where I'm in a wheelchair or have cancer or whatever. My family is well off and there's no financial gain for my mom as far as I know. Oh, and this is a throwaway because I'm not stupid. Some facts: I'm 14, turning 15 in April. I'm the youngest in my family by quite a bit. I have an adult half-sister. My mom had when she was a teenager, and I only met like once or something. And I had a sister who died when she was a teenager, when I was a baby. She was also sick her whole life, but I think she was actually sick. My mom is pretty much the boss of the house. My dad is clueless about literally everything and just does whatever she wants. My mom is super controlling and dictates everything in our life. She still buys all my clothes, makes up my plate, keeps my phone in her room at night, gives me all my medicines, blah blah. I'm at school writing this on my school computer so she won't find out. My mom told me that I was sick when I was like 5 or so, but I'm pretty sure I started getting medicine and stuff earlier. She told me that I have genetic breathing problems and digestive problems, and that I needed medicines for both. I have a nebulizer and I take pills. She told me I had to eat a specific diet and take the medicine every day, so I don't get sick. The only times I remember getting really sick were at a birthday party. She gave me my medicine and said I could eat whatever I wanted, but I got sick and had to go to the hospital. But I got better in the hospital. And last year I got pneumonia, and she treated it at home, and I got so sick I almost died. But then I got better in the hospital. I do have trouble breathing a lot and feel sick a lot, but now I have a reason to believe that she's making me sick. So over winter break, my family and my best friends' family went on a ski trip together. And last minute my friend's family decided to stay an extra few days. But my parents had to go back because my dad had to work. My friend's family invited me to stay. And after begging and stuff, my mom finally gave in. And my friend's mom promised to keep my diet and give me all my meds. But she's way more laid back than my mom. And she would just give me the meds. And we were unsupervised a lot. My friend wanted to see what happened if I didn't take my meds. And so I didn't, and I was fine. Actually, I felt better than normal. I ate whatever and never even got a stomachache. And that was when I first started thinking that something was weird. As soon as I came home and went back to normal living with my mom, I started getting sick again. Actually, I was so sick for the first 2 weeks I couldn't eat anything, and I missed almost the first month back. And then when I came back, I told my friend, and she was jokingly like, "Oh my God, what if your mom is gypsy rosing you?" And I laughed, but I want to know what I should do legally. Can I call the cops on her or CPS? Should I talk to a counselor or teacher and let them report it? Sorry if this is the wrong place, but since it has to do with something illegal, I thought this was best. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Talk to a counselor, a doctor, a teacher, anyone. Do you think she is poisoning your food, drinks? What pills does she give you, and are they prescribed by a doctor? You can look up the pills by going to Google and inputting the color and appearance and the numbers printed on the pills. Reply, I'll have to look up the pills if I can. I don't go to the doctor all that often, which I know is weird. Only if I'm sick, and usually my mom takes me straight to the hospital. Then she told me you only go to the doctor yearly until you're 10, and then after you have your first period, which I haven't yet. So I don't know if the doctor prescribed them or not. Poison sounds kinda dramatic, but I think the medicine is what makes me sick. Commenter 2. Are you seeing a doctor? For your health issues? Reply, I haven't seen a doctor since I was 10. Edit other than at the hospital. Commenter 3. That in and of itself is a red flag. Kids with multiple genetic health issues and medications go to the doctor regularly to monitor their condition as they grow and check that the dosages are still working for them. If you do have serious health conditions, and your mom hasn't taken you to the doctor in 4 years, that could be considered medical neglect. If you don't really have health problems and your mom is making you sick, she could be keeping you away from doctors so doctors don't find out what she's doing. So, either way is a big issue, and you should tell a trusted adult outside of your family, like your school counselor. Commenter 4. Tell all those people, ASAP. Also grab that pill bottle so somebody can actually see what is in it. Do you see a doctor to get this medication? Or do you only go to one when you are really sick? You shouldn't be getting any serious long-term medications without a regular checkup. There is something called Munchausen syndrome by proxy, which involves a caretaker deliberately keeping somebody sick, and it happens for reasons other than money, such as attention or a feeling of control. What you have just described sounds a lot like that, and people have heard of it. Keep talking to people till you find some that will listen. Update. Short version. My mom was making me sick. The pills were either herbal supplements designed to induce certain symptoms or sodium pills, which were actually what got her into trouble. I got super sick, and they had to transfer me to a children's hospital in the city, and they checked everything. My mom stayed with me the whole time and wouldn't let me answer any questions or anything, and then they got suspicious because of the gaps in my medical history, and they made her leave and put security in my room and had a social worker come in when everything started to get better without my mom there, and I told them my suspicions. They decided that's what was happening. And children's services got involved. My dad chose to side with my mom, but my big sister, who I hardly even know, has stepped in to look after me. I'm still in the hospital because my kidneys need to heal. And I am having trouble with my blood sugar because of the damage from the pills I was taking, and how sick I got when my mom gave me too much. This is obviously the really short version because it's hard for me to talk about. My sister has been really nice to me, but it's a big change. The social worker told me it's up to me if I want to press actual charges against my mom or not, and I can't decide if I want to or not. I probably won't be able to live with her again until after I turn 18, but I guess I don't really want to? I don't know, it's weird. But you guys aren't therapists, so anyway, I just wanted to update everyone and say thanks. Stories number 5, Aita. For publicly shaming my wife for falling for a romance scam. Wife, 46F, and I54M, have been through some challenges. I had a serious health issues that took a few years to recover from. Stress of work, aging, and life leading to a flat marriage. We had been through many challenges in the past, but a significant shift started about 10 months ago. She began to simply not do any of her responsibilities, became secretive, changed passwords and codes. And although we never policed each other in 25 years, these were open, email, phones, cards, etc. I never once opened the door to look, but we both knew the door was unlocked if wanted. Her arguing became more and more difficult to comprehend. Irrational anger, and then if I responded, she would secretly record me, edit out her instigation. She even shared videos to my daughter, 33F, and other friends. To give an example, she basically cut off all contact with my daughter when my daughter said, "I don't know. He sounds like he's the level-headed one in this, and you're being a bit irrational." She even tried multiple times to instigate a physical altercation. At no point, ever, not now and not ever, have I ever even considered raising a hand to her. It's actually inconceivable to me. I was well aware of the red flags: hiding, sneaking off, hiding her phone when I came in the room. Then small weird banking issues. 100 here, 100 there. Then more. Like I say, I never policed her. I trusted her implicitly for over 2 decades. When I raised some questions about the banking, there were excuses, but then she started using her Visa rather than the account. I don't get her statements or open her mail. Anyways, how it ended up was she started pulling high-interest loans and washing through her Visa, to whatever end, and dumping the loan repayments onto the primary account, and they all hit like an avalanche. Then the account was locked because she tried a large transfer to a Bitcoin exchange, and the bank intervened. At this point, I'm reeling from being hit by one bus after another, and I'm still the bad guy. I made her move to the country, not exactly. She actually found the place we bought 19 years ago and suggested it to me. I'm verbally abusive. I'll make no excuses. I said some mean stuff in the last while. I'm distant, etc. I move out to my office. It's a separate building. With the agreement, I could make food, coffee, use facilities as needed. I happen to be in the kitchen making coffee, and her phone is sitting face up with case open on the counter. She has pathologically kept it hidden, controlled for months, so I'm somewhat surprised it's there, and as I'm pouring the coffee, a long, "I love you" message pops up on it. I snap a pic with my phone, look up the name, and find the profile of a guy who lives near where she's been asking me to take out an equity loan so she could go back to school. A friend digs. I'm blocked by her on all social media platforms by this point, and she has squishy cooing posts going back months under his pictures. I confront her on this. First response is, "I've only been chatting a few days or week, and we are not together now, and I can do what I want." I bring up the screen, shots of the posts, and it becomes, "Okay, maybe a month or so, but it was just harmless flirting." As I peel back layer after layer, it's well over 6 months. After putting it together, I ask outright, "The Bitcoin thing, where did that come from?" Him. And these ideas, him. On and on, but prior. I blew it up online, with her family, mutual friends, a complete carpet bombing to see what rats scurried out of the rubble. A mutual friend female dug in fast and determined clearly. It was a scammer, catfish, fake. She even found the sister of the real guy whose profile was stolen. And this is not the first time this happened. A week passes, and she asks if I will come back into the house but says, "I don't know if I'm ready for a decision as to if we try to go forward." My response was, "You think this is all your decision? I wouldn't trust you with a stale loaf of bread. And there is no way I will lay in a bed as some placeholder while you online shop for my replacement next to me." She keeps saying it wasn't real, he wasn't real, but the intention was, the damage was, that's real to me. The months of gaslighting and making me doubt my own sanity is real. The hurt and confusion was real. I even said, "Just be open with it all. Put it on the table." And she continued to lie about how long. As mentioned above, it was peeling back layers like an onion with a new layer hidden underneath, with each new revelation, moving the start back further and further. She's still lying about things. Now I'm getting flack from some friends and local acquaintances that I was too harsh, too public, too mean about my response, and how I demeaned and embarrassed her, and could have done it privately. Now I am the AH again, because I publicly shamed and demeaned her, and that I won't let it go. So Aita. Stories number 6. I saw a brother flirting with my girl and confronted him. What do I seriously do? I'm a pledge at an SEC school and just got my bid last week. I've been trying to keep my head down and grind through pledging, but there's this one active who has been giving me a hard time since day one. He singles me out during workouts, constantly calls me out, and just seems to have it out for me. I talked to my pledge master about it, and he basically told me to deal with it. So I've been trying to tough it out. Last night, though, it got way worse. I walked into a party and saw this guy all over my girlfriend, like arm around her waist, leaning in close, and she looked super uncomfortable. I went over, pulled him off her, and told him to back off. He immediately got in my face and looked like he was about to swing, but other brothers stepped in and pulled him away. Now I'm honestly stressed about what's going to happen. I'm still pledging, he's inactive, and I don't want to get blackballed or make things worse for myself. But I'm also not okay with him disrespecting me like that. What would you do in my shoes? Top comments. Commenter 1. Insanely whack. I would question the quality of the brotherhood if they don't come to you and apologize. You're obviously bottom of the totem pole as a pledge, but getting touchy with a pledge's girl is insanely out of pocket. Getting touchy with any girl in a way that makes them uncomfortable already should be taken seriously by the frat. Commenter 2. Dude woulda gotten jumped for that type of shit in my house, brother, or no. Going to swing on a pledge, especially after creeping on his lady, definitely would have been an issue. If your chapter lets that slide, I would reconsider your position there. Commenter 3. Talk to your PM in a very direct and forthcoming way. Dude might have been putting on an act thinking you were overreacting before. If other brothers did have to get him to stop charging at you, I'm sure the behavior isn't a shock to anyone. Let him know about the incident, especially how he was making her uncomfortable, and how he tried to hit you. That shit wouldn't fly in my chapter update. Turns out I wasn't overreacting at all. My girlfriend straight up admitted she'd been hooking up with that active behind my back. Apparently it wasn't the first time either. I guess when I saw him with her that night, he wasn't just flirting, he was basically claiming his territory. Tried to bring it up to my pledge master again, and even other actives. I thought maybe there'd be some accountability, but nah. He basically told me I was overreacting, said I made a scene, and that I should have handled it better. They acted like I was the crazy one for confronting him, even though he was messing with my girl. I got zero backup at that point. I realized there was no way I'd ever be respected in that house. No matter how hard I pledged, I wasn't about to spend months getting hazed for guys who don't even have my back. This incident doesn't make me hate Greek life as a whole, but I'm definitely not as enthusiastic about it anymore. I'm going to join some clubs and organizations on campus, and hopefully make friends that way. Final comments. Commenter 1. You can do better, bro. Glad you have respect for yourself. Fuck them. Commenter 2. Join a different fraternity that aren't a bunch of pieces of shit. Brotherhood my ass. You deserve better. Commenter 3. Extremely low-class move to fuck a pledge's GF. Dodged a bullet with the house and the girl. Stories number 7. I told my roommates I wanted to try edibles, and they gave me a 1,000 ml gummy. I'm 24F, I've never smoked, or been high before, but I have wanted to try edibles for a while. I thought it could be something I do for fun every once in a while, getting high without damaging my lungs. On Sunday, after grocery shopping, my roommates asked to stop at the smoke shop to get us all some edibles. We get home and one of them hands me a gummy. I ask how much is in it. He says 1,000 milligrams. And then I'm like, is that a lot? And he's like, nah. In less than an hour, everything started moving in slow motion. I could hardly talk or move. I felt trapped in my own body. This went on for about 32 hours, so I couldn't come into work on Monday. I was also crying and throwing up throughout. Overall, the experience was terrible. It's Thursday now, and I still feel very sluggish and don't have much appetite. I'm not sure if I ever want to get high ever again. My roommates keep insisting 1,000 milligrams isn't a lot, but my other friends keep telling me they practically drugged me and I shouldn't trust them anymore. I don't know what to think at the moment. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Your friend is actually an asshat. 1,000 milliliters is an incredibly high single dose even for heavy recreational and medicinal users. Commenter 2. Literally 100 times the dose I would suggest for OP. Commenter 3. Yep. Even 20 milliliters knocks me out sometimes, and I can't do anything except go with the flow. The panic edit. And I'm a regular user. Commenter 4. I'm a heavy user and I take edibles every day. The highest I go in a single serving is $1,000 would send me around the fucking moon. Commenter 5. Yeah, they drugged you. A beginner's dose would have been 10 milliliters, not 1,000. Edit. Comments are right. 2 to 5 milliliters would probably be a safer amount for a newbie. Commenter 6. It's those 1,000 milliliters packs you see of THCA at the vape store. They probably are not really 1000 milliliters, but they are potent. If it was someone first time, I would tell them it's probably similar to 100 and to take a quarter or less, 25 milliliters. What OP's friend did is still very wrong, and they are ignorant to say 1000 milliliters isn't a lot. Even if they are ignorant and they think it's not a lot, because their tolerance is so high, they still should be aware that their tolerance is the reason they don't think that's a lot. I only made this comment because I see these posts somewhat frequently nowadays, and wanted to comment that 1000 milliliters of vape store edibles is not ever going to be 1000 milliliters. Reply. Neither of my roommates seem to realize that. Sadly, commenter 7. Yeah, that's fucked up, dude. 5-10 milliliters is recommended for first time. These aren't your friends. These are people that want to point and laugh at you while you're overwhelmingly high at it. I've been smoking for 20 plus years, and I wouldn't take 1000. Mazes commenter 8. Yeah, I get anxiety off of 100 milliliters sometimes. Oh, if you aren't just taking the piss, please don't associate with these people again. Truly horrible friends. Reply. They're my roommates, so I don't have much of a choice. I'm choosing not to make a big fuss over it, but I'm definitely never taking edibles from them ever again. Commenter 9. Just took my first 1000 plumbing eddy. It was calmer than I was expecting, but I smoke a lot, and I was still high as giraffe pussy. Reply. Did my post inspire you to try a 1000 milliliter edible? Update 1. Texts between me and my roommates after they gave me a 1000 milliliter gummy on Sunday. Images attached. First image. Screenshot of text. Messages between OOP and another person. J. Transcript of text messages. Sunday 6 to 26 p.m. J. Are you okay? J. I put your keys on the table. I was trying to give them to you. Monday 8:44 a.m. J. Good morning. Monday 1:27 p.m. Me. I puked in the bathroom. Monday 4:30 p.m. J. When you feel better, clean it. J. I'm sorry you don't feel good. Me. Okay, J. It shouldn't have hit you that strong. I was feeling normal. Monday 9:14 p.m. J. There ain't no way you still high. Take a shower and freshen up. You will feel better. OP. I'm still high. Can't image. Screenshot of text messages. Between OOP and another person. G. Transcript of text messages. Me. I puked on the bathtub. Monday 3:03 p.m. G. Are you sure you're okay? Me. No. G. What's going on? Me. Everything slow motion. Me. And painful. G. Have you taken a shower yet? Me. Gnome. I threw up in the tub. G. Clean the tub. Oop. I can't. G. Run some cold water over you while you sit in the tub. G. Run a cold shower, but sit in the tub. That's the only thing that will help. Third image. Screenshot of text messages between OP and another person. J. Transcript of text messages. Sunday 6:26 p.m. Yay facts. J. And I'm sorry you got as high as you did. I'll make sure to get the lower stuff if you ever want to try edibles again. Yeah, I did some research, and apparently 1000 milliliters is not a good dosage. For somebody who's never been high before. J. I forget my tolerance is high, so I can handle 1000 milligrams and feel normal. J. Did it feel bad? Far? Me. Yay, it felt terrible, like I was moving in slow motion, almost paralyzed for over 24 hours. J. I find it best when I'm overwhelmed by how high I am to play a game or something. Usually helps me. Yeah, I couldn't really do that. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Throw these people out metaphorically. Like I get it if you can't move out, but I do like another user advised and just go cordial and distance myself. I mean, I got someone too high on a joint once, and they got sick all night. Did I leave them? No. I made sure they didn't choke on their fucking vomit and cleaned up. After them, I felt so bad that what I gave them was too strong. These jerks didn't even help you. Come on. You deserved so much better. Reply. Yeah, they hardly checked up on me at all. I looked at my messages that aren't included in this post, and at 11:25 p.m. the next day, my male roommate texted me that I forgot to take my clothes out the dryer. Like, they seriously did not comprehend how messed up I was, and expected me to be able to do house chores in my state. Commenter 2. These people are mean to you. There is no world where they're unaware of how much they gave you. If they really truly have a tolerance high enough to take 1000 milliliter gummies, which I'm skeptical of, then they would know how long it took them to build up that kind of tolerance. Both of them, when you told them that you got sick enough to vomit in the bathtub, immediately just ordered you to clean it up. That's heartless and cruel and completely dismissive of the fact that you were sick in the first place, and that they made you that way. Take this to heart. I've had a lot of bad roommates in my life. These people are not just being unkind, they're actively being harmful to you and completely dismissive of the harm they are causing. Commenter 3 far even. The third person is shady. Does it enough to know $1,000 doesn't really affect them, but didn't know it was too much for a person new to edibles? Reply. The person in the third screenshot is actually the same person in the first screenshot. I only have 2 roommates. Commenter 4. Your roommate is either malicious or legitimately the dumbest person alive. Like I can feel how slow they are mentally. Show them this comment. Reply. I'm not going to show either of them that. I don't want to start trouble. These are my roommates and I enjoy living with them. To me it's not worth making a fuss over, but I still won't be taking edibles from them ever again. Commenter 5. Sometimes you grow up in a culture where fucked up things are okay, as a joke, but you should really consider the fact that this is insane behavior. You might be living in a bubble where the expectations for how people treat each other is very bad. That was me in my hometown, and then I left and discovered just how shitty what normal was in the culture I grew up in. I will never ever regret leaving, and my life is indescribably better now. Final update on my roommates giving me a 1,000 milligrams gummy. Last Sunday was when I was given the gummy. Friday, I got called into my boss's office. I received 2 write-ups for very rookie mistakes I made. I've never been written up at any job. For anything. Ever. My boss wasn't angry though. He was more so concerned, and said that these aren't mistakes I'd be ever make. And he asked if I was doing okay mentally. I told him, it's just been a rough week. He offered for me to go home, because I clearly wasn't functioning well. I laid in bed for the rest of the day. The next day, Saturday, my female roommate confronted me. Keep in mind, I never expressed any anger towards either roommate, and was going to let this incident slide, and just avoid taking anything from them ever again. She went off on me. She flat out accused me of faking how badly the edible affected me, saying I was faking it to get out of doing chores, and that I clearly wanted attention. She said I made them both uncomfortable with the way I acted. I was supposed to do dishes Sunday night but couldn't, because I was bedridden. I ended up doing the dishes Monday night, literally around midnight going into Tuesday, because they still weren't done. She said that my male roommate offered to do the dishes Sunday night, but she told him not to. They let dishes pile up and made me do all of them to get back at me for trying to get out of chores. She also admitted they purposefully didn't clean up my puke, which I ended up cleaning Tuesday morning because, again, I was faking it. I tried to explain I genuinely have not been functioning all week, and that I hardly remember Sunday night or most of Monday. She continued to cuss me out and said, weed doesn't cause amnesia. She also noted how I didn't clean certain dishes properly and said, weed doesn't affect your vision. You have glasses. She also said it's impossible to be affected by weed for this long. I didn't have the energy to express any anger, so I kinda just let her drill into me for an hour about how obvious it was I was faking it, because again, 1,000 milligrams is a low dose. I tried to bring up that I did my own research and talked to some friends about it, and she said that she has a medical license, and asked if my friends have medical licenses. I told her no. She said my friends don't know what they're talking about. She claims she's never in her life seen somebody act that way from getting high, and it's impossible to be messed up for that long. She said she's worked in the ER and have seen druggies all drugged up and they weren't as bad as me, which literally makes no sense to me because as far as I know, all I did was lay in bed, cry, and throw up. This woman stood in front of me reiterating again that 1,000 me isn't a lot. It's a low dose, and that she was on 2,000 me that night and made dinner no problem. She flat out accused me of being a liar, attention seeker, and said she's been keeping an eye on me all week when I leave for work and come home, and that I have been pretending to be tired and walking funny on purpose. I calmly told her that I really wasn't faking anything, and she was like, "Do you think I'm stupid?" Then she just continued to go off on me and insult me for a while. All of this was the last straw. The next day was Sunday yesterday. I texted my boss and told him that I was drugged. He told me to use my sick hours and take as much time as I need, I called my mom and explained the situation. My grandpa and myself came back to my roommate's house and collected all of my stuff. My dad didn't come, but only because he said he would have killed at least one of them. I moved out yesterday, August 31. Today is Monday, September 1st, and my male roommate texted me, threatening to take me to court for not paying September's rent. I told him to take it to court and blocked both of them. I want to personally thank Artrees for educating me and convincing me to leave this toxic living situation. You guys honestly played a huge part in this, because I genuinely didn't know to believe my roommates or my other friends at first, which is why I decided to post here. I've been using Reddit since 2016 under other accounts, and in my 9 years of using this site, I've never ever seen an entire Reddit comment section unanimously agree on something. You guys were right. Thank you. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Today is the first day of your new and better life. Keep moving forward. I wish you well. Reply. Thank you FR. I'm honestly still super anxious. My anxiety is way worse now, and I'm stuck with my parents, who I love, but they are toxic in their own ways, hence the reason I moved out to begin with. For now I need to just focus on my career until I'm able to afford an apartment all by myself, because I don't know if I ever want to put my trust in roommates again after this. Commenter 2. Not all people are pieces of shit. I understand how you feel, but drugging someone without consent is fucked up. I say that as a lifetime tea smoker. What they did is assault. I hope you have better experiences in the future with your living situation. It can be challenging to live alone. Commenter 3. She said she's worked in the ER. I sure as hell hope she does not work in any medical facility. And if she does, you should report what she did to her work. I would not want anyone to be around such a person when they are trying to get better. She has proven she is not capable of doing that kind of job. Commenter 4. Might be worth a phone call. Honestly, I would. But I'm mean and petty. Hospitals have complaint lines. She clearly has an ego problem and no qualms hurting people. She shouldn't be in charge of anyone's health care. They want to take this to court and make it official record? Okay. Bet. Commenter 5. Also, play some Terrace in 20-minute stints while thinking about all this bullshit. It's proven that if you play something like Tetris soon after something traumatizing while remembering it, it can help reduce the chances of PTSD and just generally help your brain process all this better. It will also help distract you from your anxiety some. Reply, playing Tetris while thinking about trauma sounds like a budget DIY version of EMDR. That's genius, I never thought of that. Commenter 6. Holy shit, I'm so sorry they tried to gaslight you. I know we've all said it before, but 1000 mg is absolutely not a low dose. I'm glad you've moved out. Reply, I am so glad I posted this to Reddit because had I not had 1,000 stoners telling me the same thing, I really wouldn't have known any better, and probably would have assumed she was right. Commenter 7. I'm glad you did too. Stoners are usually quite nice with getting people into weed, so I'm really sorry your first experience was shit like this. If you're ever willing to try it again, a 25 mg dose is a normal dose for a beginner. But I also totally understand if you don't want to touch weed ever again. LOL. Commenter 8. Hey, I am not the guy for this. But someone linked some informative sources for this poor gal. Something to explain how the body metabolizes THC and how to ease the effects. So fucking horrible what those people did to you. They are not your friends, and they do not understand how THC functions in your body. I've been a consistent THC user for decades and would never try a 1000 mg unless I wanted to be delirious for a week. I don't. Reply. Delirious for a week. Pretty much how I was almost lost my job. Commenter 9. If she tries to take you to court, then show up to court and tell the judge everything that happened. You were in an unsafe living arrangement and you don't owe them a damn thing. Fuck them. Hope they stub their toes until their toenails fall off. Your ex-roommates are disgusting narcissists, and I hope they eat each other alive now that you're safe and out of the picture. Commenter 10. Nah. Honestly, I hope they lose their jobs, get evicted or something similar. They need to pay some sort of price. Especially since the CU, next Tuesday of a roommate doubled down on OP and harassed her for something she had absolutely zero control over. I fucking hate people like the roommate is describing, so fucking stuck up and sure of themselves. People really fucking piss me off sometimes. Reply, I even clarified with her if there was any issue with me before that week. She said no. So the entire time I've been living here, I was fine. Then I get drugged and bedridden, and she goes off on me for skipping out on chores. Also, she is currently unemployed and has been since I moved in. Stories number 8. My boyfriend put a pillow over my head during sex, and I don't know how to process it. This is one of the hardest posts I've ever written, but I need to get it out. Maybe someone out there has been through something similar, or maybe I just need to hear that I'm not losing my mind. The relationship before everything, I've been dating my boyfriend, Tyler, 32M. For just about 2 years, I'm 29F. Up until this point, he has been everything I thought I wanted in a partner. Respectful, sweet, attentive, funny, and the kind of guy who brought me soup when I was sick and left notes in my work bag before I left in the mornings. We met through mutual friends at a 4th of July barbecue in Ohio. Where I live, I wasn't even looking for anything serious. But he charmed me. He wasn't overbearing, just easy to talk to. We started dating casually, and by the 6-month mark, we were official. By a year, I was spending most weekends at his place. Sexually, we had always been straightforward. Nothing extreme, nothing rough, and he knew that I wasn't into choking, slapping, or anything involving breath play. He once asked about it early on, just out of curiosity, and I told him firmly, "No, that's not for me." He respected that, or at least I thought he did. The night it happened, 3 weeks ago, we were at his apartment, just hanging out. We had some wine, watched a movie, and things naturally escalated into sex. Everything was normal at first. Then, out of nowhere, Tyler grabbed a pillow and shoved it over my face. Not gently, not playfully. He pressed it down hard, forcing my head deeper into the mattress. At first, I thought maybe he was being silly or trying to be kinky, but it immediately felt wrong. I couldn't breathe properly. My arms flailed. I tried to kick him off, but he didn't stop. He kept thrusting, holding that pillow down, like he was determined to keep me pinned until he finished. I was panicked, genuinely scared for my life. 5 minutes might not sound long, but when you're gasping for air, 5 minutes feels like an eternity. When he finally let up and rolled off, I shot up, coughing and crying. I screamed at him, "What the hell is wrong with you?" He looked at me like I was overreacting and muttered, "I thought you'd like it." I stared at him, stunned. I've never once suggested I wanted anything like that. He knows how I feel about suffocation or being held down. He knows it terrifies me. I stormed out of his apartment, shaking so badly I could barely drive home. The aftermath. Since that night, Tyler has been blowing up my phone. Calls, texts, voicemails. His messages range from apologetic, "I didn't mean to scare you," to defensive, "It wasn't that bad, you're blowing it out of proportion," to manipulative, "Please don't throw away 2 years over one mistake." I haven't responded. I feel disgusted, betrayed, and honestly, violated. This wasn't just a miscommunication. This was a line being crossed in the worst way possible. Talking to friends, I confided in my best friend Emily, 30F, who has known me since high school. She was horrified. She said, "That's not a mistake. That's assault." Hearing her put it into words made my stomach drop. Another friend, Marcus, 31M, who I trust deeply, told me, "He took away your ability to consent in that moment. That's not sex. That's violence." They both encouraged me to go to the police. Taking action after sitting with it for a few days, I realized they were right. I couldn't shake the feeling of his weight pressing me down, the muffled sounds in my ears, the panic. I decided to press charges. I went to the hospital for a rape kit, even though it felt humiliating. The nurses were kind, though, and told me I was brave for coming in. I filed a police report. I saved all of Tyler's texts and calls. I blocked his number but kept the evidence. The detective I spoke with, Officer Daniels, assured me they'd take it seriously. He told me not to blame myself, even though part of me kept whispering, "You should have fought harder," screamed louder, an unexpected message. Then came something I didn't expect. Tyler's mom, Karen, 58F, reached out to me. She left a long voicemail saying how distraught she was, how ashamed she felt, and that if I pressed charges, she would fully support me. She said Tyler had never done anything like this before, and she was questioning everything about how she raised him. His dad, Steve 61M, apparently felt the same and didn't call her back. I appreciated the sentiment, but the truth is, their guilt or shame doesn't change what Tyler did to me. And honestly, I don't feel safe being anywhere near his family right now. Where I am now, I'm not okay. Not yet. I feel shaken. Like I can't trust my own judgment anymore. How could someone who was so sweet, so respectful for 2 years, suddenly do something so horrifying? Was it always inside him, waiting to come out? Therapy is helping. My therapist, Dr. Lisa Green, told me, "You are allowed to feel violated. Because you were respectful partners, don't gamble with your life to see if you like it." I'm trying to rebuild my sense of safety. I've cut all ties with Tyler. I don't leave my drink unattended when I go out. I double-check my locks. It's exhausting, but it's where I'm at. Final thoughts. I'm sharing this here because I want to be clear. If someone ignores your boundaries and endangers your life, it's not a mistake. It's not a misunderstanding, it's violence. I don't know what will happen with the case yet, but pressing charges already feels like the first step toward reclaiming myself. To anyone reading this who has been in my shoes, I believe you and you're not overreacting. Update: weeks after pressing charges. It's been about 3 weeks since I pressed charges against Tyler. I honestly didn't know how I'd make it through this, but I'm slowly starting to feel a little more in control of my life. The police have been following up consistently. Officer Daniels called me twice this past week to go over Tyler's previous record and his statements. Apparently there are no prior reports of assault, but he did have a few incidents of controlling behavior in relationships that didn't involve the law. Hearing that was unsettling. It made me feel like maybe there were warning signs I overlooked, but my therapist reminded me it's not my fault. No one should have to predict that someone would do something like this. Therapy and emotional recovery. I've been going to Dr. Lisa Green twice a week, and we've been unpacking a lot. I realized that for years, I've always been someone who tried to keep the peace and avoid confrontation at all costs. In my previous relationships, I'd ignore little red flags thinking things would get better. This experience shattered that mindset, and I've been slowly learning to trust my instincts. She's been helping me process feelings of guilt and shame. Honestly, at first I felt guilty, like maybe I overreacted, like maybe I somehow led him on or could have stopped it sooner. Dr. Green kept repeating, "You didn't do anything wrong. Consent isn't negotiable. He chose to ignore your boundaries. That's on him, not you." Saying that out loud over and over still doesn't make it all disappear, but it helps a little. Tyler's attempts to contact Tyler hasn't given up. Surprisingly, despite being blocked, he's sent emails to my work email which I haven't opened yet, and even tried sending messages through mutual friends. My friends and I have been clear. Do not forward anything to her, and don't communicate with her on his behalf. I also discovered that he tried showing up near my apartment once, and that was terrifying. I called the police immediately, and they increased their patrols around my building. I've never felt more violated, but I'm grateful for the quick response support from friends and family. My support network has been incredible. Emily has basically been living in constant check-in mode with me. Texts, calls, coffee dates, anything to make sure I'm okay. Marcus has been helping me with practical stuff too, like walking me home from the subway and setting up additional security cameras in my apartment. It feels a little extreme, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Interestingly, Tyler's parents have reached out again, trying to mediate and ask me to meet them. I told them no, I don't trust them. And frankly, I don't want to be anywhere near people who raised him to think this behavior could ever be excusable. Learning boundaries and self-protection. One thing I've realized is that I need to rebuild my boundaries. For the first time in my life, I'm learning how to say no and mean it. Before, I would let things slide to avoid conflict. After what happened, I understand that protecting myself is not only okay, it's necessary. I've been practicing assertiveness in small ways too. Saying no to late-night texts from coworkers, being more deliberate about my personal space, even telling friends when I need time alone. It feels weird, but liberating. The legal side. The police report is moving forward. Tyler has been questioned, and now the DA's office is reviewing the case. I've been advised not to communicate with him at all, which is hard. I keep imagining confrontations and arguments in my head, but I have to remind myself that this is not my responsibility. The legal system will handle that. I'm also gathering any remaining evidence, screenshots, texts, any proof that can strengthen my case. It's exhausting, emotionally draining, and scary, but necessary. Personal reflection. Some days, I feel strong. I feel proud of myself for taking action. Other days, I feel terrified, anxious, and on edge. I've been sleeping with a white noise machine, locking all doors and windows, and making sure friends check in when I leave my apartment. The scariest part is realizing that someone you trust can betray you in ways you never imagined. But the silver lining is learning that I can survive this, and I am taking back control. I'm sharing this because if anyone is going through something similar, you are not overreacting, you are not alone, and you deserve to be safe. I've started journaling again, something I hadn't done in years. Feels like reclaiming a little piece of myself. If people want, I can post another update once the legal case progresses, or after my first therapy session that involves discussing confrontation strategies. Right now, it's all about regaining control and feeling safe in my own life. Stories number 9. My boyfriend's no spoiler rule is killing my joy and putting distance between us. Hi Reddit. I've been sitting on this for months, and I need some perspective before I either blow up at my boyfriend or say something I'll regret. I'm Caroline 35F and my boyfriend James 39M, and I have been together for almost 7 years. We live together in Portland, Oregon, and one of the biggest things that bonded us when we first met was gaming. It was our love language, midnight launches, co-op marathons, staying up until 4 a.m., drinking energy drinks and arguing over lore theories. Games have always been our thing. The game that pulled me out of a funk. This past spring, I downloaded a game that honestly changed my life. For context, I've been in kind of a gray fog for the last few years. Work stress, a couple of family losses, and just general burnout left me feeling like I was dragging myself through the motions. But this game, it pulled me out of it. I'm not going to name the title because James lurks Reddit sometimes, and I promised him no spoilers. But think epic storytelling, stunning art direction, an insanely creative fan community. The works. It lit a spark in me I thought was gone. I started drawing again. I've been cranking out fan art, like I'm back in college with my sketchbook. I even started a cosplay project, something I haven't done since Comic-Con 2016. I've joined online forums, Discord servers, and even found local meetups. I made friends through this game who get the same excitement I feel. And for the first time in years, I feel plugged into a community. It's not an exaggeration to say this game gave me joy again. The promise I made to James, when I told James about it, he bought his own copy right away. I was thrilled, imagining us playing together, geeking out, swapping theories, maybe even cosplaying as characters as a couple. But when I brought it up, he told me he wasn't ready to play yet. He made me promise I wouldn't spoil anything, not a single detail. No screenshots, no lore drops. Nothing. I agreed at first. It seemed fair. I thought he'd pick it up in a week or two, maybe a month tops, but here we are, 6 months later. 6 months of silence. He hasn't even touched the game. And it's not because he's swamped. He lost his job earlier this year, so he's had plenty of free time. He's played and beaten 3 other big games since April. Every time I gently ask about this one, he says, "I'll get to it eventually. Don't rush me." Meanwhile, he's strict about this no-spoiler promise. He's called me out for showing him harmless memes because they had a screenshot in them. A month ago, I wanted to watch a live orchestra performance of the soundtrack, and he asked me to go sit in the car with my phone so he wouldn't accidentally hear spoilers. I've been doing my artwork at the library instead of our dining table because he doesn't want to see it. Do you know how insane it feels to be told to hide something that brings you joy in your own home? The wedge it's creating. This game is everywhere in my life now. My group chats blow up daily. I'm in the middle of planning a trip to Seattle with new friends for a fan convention next spring. And yet, in my own house, I'm walking on eggshells. It feels like we're living in separate universes. He's my partner, the person I want to share this with most, and instead it's this forbidden topic. When I slip and mention something small, he gets visibly irritated. I wouldn't care as much if he just admitted he's not actually going to play it. Like, just say, "Hey, it's not my thing after all," and I'd drop the spoiler wall. But this weird limbo where I have to muzzle myself, while he keeps saying eventually, is eating me alive. Why it stings so much? Part of this is about the game, sure, but it's also about what it represents. We used to share passions. If one of us found something cool, the other dove into it, was part of what made us feel like a team. Now, something that has genuinely reignited my sense of joy feels like a wedge. Because he's refusing to engage, but also refusing to let me talk about it. I've tried to be patient. I've been respectful for 6 months. But I'm exhausted. I don't want to sneak around to enjoy something that makes me happy. What I want to say. Here's the thing. I'm this close to laying it out for him bluntly. You've had 6 months. Either play the game in the next couple of weeks, or I'm done treating it like a secret. I won't deliberately spoil anything. But I'm not going to tiptoe around it anymore. If you hear a spoiler, that's on you. I don't think that's unreasonable. But I know the way I phrase it will matter, and I don't want to come across as cruel. I don't want this to become a fight about controlling what he plays and when. I just need him to understand that this isn't just about a video game. It's about me wanting to share my joy with him instead of hiding it. So Reddit, am I being unreasonable? Is this an ultimatum that crosses a line? Or is it fair to finally set a boundary and say, I've respected your request for half a year, but my happiness matters too. Update. My boyfriend's no spoiler rule is killing my joy and putting distance between us. Hi Reddit, it's Caroline again. I didn't expect my first post to get so much traction. But wow. Thank you for all the advice, support, and even the tough love. I read through everything James doesn't know about the post. And I don't plan to show him. A lot has happened since I wrote that, so here's the update. The confrontation. I couldn't avoid anymore. I finally snapped last week, not in a screaming match kind of way, but I hit my wall. We were hanging out in the living room, and I had my sketchbook in my lap. I wasn't even drawing characters from the game, just doodling. James looked over and asked, "That's not from the game, right?" The tone was sharp, almost accusing. Something in me just broke. I closed the book and said, "James, we need to talk." I laid it all out. It's been 6 months. He's had time for other games, so eventually doesn't cut it anymore. I've respected his request more than reasonably. His rules are making me hide something that brings me happiness. It feels like we're in 2 separate worlds, and I miss sharing things with him. I tried to keep my tone calm, but my voice cracked at the end because it really hurt. His reaction at first. James was defensive. He said, "I don't want this game ruined for me, and I don't understand why you can't just wait. If you really cared, you'd keep respecting that," I countered with, "I have been respecting it for half a year, but my joy matters too, James. You don't even know if you'll ever play it. I can't keep living like I'm sneaking around in my own house." He went quiet for a while, like full-on silent treatment mode. I thought he was shutting down, but then he asked me if this game mattered more to me than our relationship. That one stung. I told him no, of course not, but that the way he was handling this was making me feel like I had to choose between sharing myself or keeping him comfortable. And that's not fair. Where it turned, after a lot of back and forth, I finally asked him straight up, "Are you actually going to play this game? Or do you just like having the control of making me keep quiet about it?" He looked guilty. He admitted he's been putting it off because he's overwhelmed. He lost his job back in February, and while I knew it hit his confidence, I didn't realize how much he said. Starting a game that I was so obsessed with felt like too much pressure. He was scared of not liking it as much as I did, or of not getting it, and then feeling like he disappointed me. That stopped me cold. I hadn't even considered that. What we agreed to, we spent hours hashing it out. By the end, we made a compromise. He promised to start the game this month. Not necessarily finish it quickly, but at least start. I don't have to hide my art anymore. If he walks past and sees it, that's on him. I can talk about the game around the house, but I'll give a heads up if I'm about to drop a spoiler. Heavy detail. He admitted he needs to work on not making me feel like my joy is a burden. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it felt like a huge weight lifted. The bigger picture. Writing my original post made me realize this wasn't really about the game. It was about communication, respect, and the weird power dynamics that sneak into long-term relationships I love. James? But sometimes he defaults into controlling behavior when he's insecure, and I've enabled it by tiptoeing around him. We talked about therapy, both couples and individual. He's hesitant but said he'd think about it. I'm going to look into it regardless, where we stand now. It's been about a week since that conversation, and things feel lighter. I've been sketching at the kitchen table again. I watched a concert stream on the TV without being banished to the car. He hasn't started the game yet, but he downloaded it and set up his save file. That alone felt like a step. I'm still cautious. I don't think one talk fixes everything, but at least the air is clearer, and I don't feel like I'm living two separate lives anymore, so yeah, that's the long update. Thanks to everyone who pushed me to stand up for myself. I don't know what the final ending looks like yet, but at least I feel like we're on the right track again. Final update. My boyfriend's no spoiler rule and how it all ended. Hi again. Reddit. I wasn't sure I'd post again, but since so many people asked for closure, here it is. This will probably be the last time I write about this. What happened after my last update? James did start the game. Sort of. A couple days after our talk, he booted it up, played maybe 90 minutes, and then put it down. He said he liked the music but felt meh about the combat, and wasn't sure if it was really his style. That was fine. I was just relieved he gave it a shot. But then came the kicker. Even after admitting he didn't love it, he still expected me to keep quiet about spoilers. His reasoning was, I might come back to it later, so don't ruin it for me. That was my breaking point. The second big talk, I sat him down and told him bluntly that this wasn't about a game anymore. This was about control. I told him I felt like I'd been gagged in my own house for half a year. I made myself small to protect his feelings, while he made zero compromises. Even after learning how much it hurt me, he was still prioritizing his comfort over my joy. I asked him point blank, do you actually want to share a life with me? Or do you just want me to live around your insecurities? He didn't have an answer. Where that left us. The next few weeks were tense. He did apologize, but it felt shallow. He never took responsibility for how unreasonable the rule had been. And every time I mentioned my artwork or fandom, he'd get quiet or leave the room. It became obvious. This wasn't just about spoilers. This was about him being insecure, unemployed, and needing control somewhere in his life. And unfortunately, I was the easiest target. I realized I was happier at the library, around friends, or at fan meetups than I was at home with him. That was a huge wake-up call. The end of the relationship. 2 months after my original post, I broke up with James. It wasn't dramatic. I just told him, I love you, but I don't like who I am in this relationship anymore. He cried, said he'd try harder, asked me to give him another chance. But deep down, I knew it wasn't about trying harder with this one thing. It was a pattern. The job stuff, the controlling streak, the defensiveness. I couldn't keep twisting myself into knots to make him comfortable. We split amicably. He moved in with a friend, and I stayed in our apartment life now. It's been about 4 months since the breakup. I feel lighter. I don't walk on eggshells anymore. My apartment is full of my sketches and cosplay projects. I've been to 2 fan conventions and made some amazing new friends, and most importantly, I feel like myself again. That joy the game sparked, it's still with me. But I also learned something much bigger. The right partner doesn't make you shrink to fit their insecurities. They grow with you, James, and I haven't spoken much since, but that's okay. I don't hate him. I think he needs therapy and stability before he can really be a good partner to anyone. But that's not my job to fix. Final thoughts to anyone reading this who feels like they're too much for their partner because of something they love. You're not. You deserve someone who celebrates your joy, not someone who cages it. So yeah, that's the final chapter. A video game didn't break us up. It just exposed cracks that were already there. And honestly, I'm grateful. Stories number 10. My wedding check bounced. What do I even write in the thank you note? So picture this. My husband Alex, 34M, and I, 31F, finally pulled off our wedding this spring. After 3 years of planning, budgeting, rescheduling because of COVID, and just generally living in a constant state of, will this even happen? It actually did 150+ guests, a big old barn-turned venue in upstate New York, twinkle lights everywhere. The works, it was chaotic, but magical. My aunt cried so hard during the vows that even our officiant had to pause. Alex's mom danced so long she sprained her ankle but refused to leave the floor. People flew in from all over, college friends, family, co-workers, and I felt so loved. Among the guests were a friend of mine, Melissa 32F, and her partner David 33M. We're not super close anymore, life just happened, people moved states, jobs got intense, but she was part of the larger friend group I wanted there. They live a few states away, so whether they flew or drove, I know it cost them money. They also had to book a hotel and probably rent a car. The fact that they showed up meant something to me. At the reception, Melissa handed us a card. I remember it clearly because it was unlike anything else we got. Hand-painted, bright colors, a quirky inside joke from our college days scribbled in the corner. It felt personal in a way some of the other cards didn't. Inside, they'd written something sweet, and also tucked in a generous check fast forward a few weeks. Alex and I went on our honeymoon to Greece right after the wedding, 2 weeks of beaches, wine and attempting to pronounce Greek words badly. When we got back, we had to immediately move me into Alex's house across the state. My parents had been holding on to the stack of cards and gifts while we were away, and honestly, between name, change paperwork, new bank accounts, and just being exhausted newlyweds, it took us about 6 weeks to finally get around to depositing everything. That's when it happened. Melissa and David's check bounced. At first, I thought I misread the bank app. Then I double-checked. Nope, big red, returned unpaid. My stomach dropped. I didn't care about the money. It's not like we were depending on that check to cover our bills. But the thought of how embarrassing that must be for them hit me immediately. I imagined Melissa seeing a notification from her bank and wanting to crawl under a rock. Alex thought we had to tell them. His logic was, what if their account was compromised or their bank made an error? They need to know. I was leaning toward letting it go quietly, but in the end, I texted her. Hey, I'm reaching out because I don't want you to have issues with your bank. Your wedding gift check bounced when we tried to cash it. Hope you're doing okay. We are not concerned about the gift. Thank you so much for attending our wedding. And then, silence, no response. No, oh God, I'm so sorry. No, thanks for letting me know. Nothing. At first, I figured maybe she was mortified I'd probably avoid replying too if I accidentally sent someone a rubber check for their wedding. But as days turned into weeks, the silence got louder. Melissa and I haven't spoken since the current problem. Now we're deep into thank you note season, and I'm sitting here with Melissa and David's card in front of me. Like I said, it was my favorite card. The artwork, the message, the little doodle that only she and I would understand. But what do I write in this note? Option A. Keep it simple. Thank you so much for being part of our special day. It meant the world to us to have you there. Option B. Mention the card. Your card was so thoughtful and creative. I'll treasure it forever. But does that just highlight the fact that it was effectively an empty card since the check didn't clear? Option C. Pretend none of it ever happened. The messy details. It feels extra weird because of the timeline. We didn't even deposit their check until 6 weeks after the wedding. Because we came back from Greece, jet-lagged, and immediately packed up my entire apartment into a U-Haul. The cards sat with my parents until I had time to get them. Some banks gave me trouble with my maiden name versus married name on the checks, and Alex and I hadn't sorted our joint account yet. So it was a logistical mess by the time Melissa's bounced. I worried it looked shady, like I was waiting around forever to cash gifts. In reality, it was just new bride chaos. And now, every time I sit down to finish my thank you notes, I freeze at theirs. The silence, part of me, is genuinely hurt. Not about the money, but about the lack of response. We were close once. I can't imagine just ghosting a friend who texted me something like that even if she didn't want to resend the check, which I don't care about, even if she was embarrassed, a simple, thanks for telling me would have gone a long way. Instead, I'm stuck wondering if this was her subtle way of saying, we're done here, where I'm at now. So Reddit, what do I even do with this thank you note? Do I keep it generic and just thank them for coming? Mention how much I love the card, hoping it doesn't read as passive-aggressive? Skip writing one altogether and risk being the rude one? Alex keeps saying, just write the note and be done with it. But it's been months now, and the fact that I still agonize over this one envelope says a lot about how much it got under my skin. That's where things stand. A bouncing check, a friendship in limbo, and me staring at fancy stationery, like it holds the secrets of the universe update. My wedding check bounced. What to say on the thank you note? Hey Reddit, it's been a while since I posted about the whole wedding check bounced debacle with my friend Melissa and her partner David. A few people asked for an update, and honestly I wasn't planning to write one because it felt too awkward, but things have developed, so after agonizing forever, I finally sent the thank you note. I kept it super simple. It said, Melissa and David, thank you so much for being part of our special day. It truly meant the world to Alex and me to have you there. We loved celebrating with you and hope you had as much fun as we did. No mention of the card, no mention of the check. Just polite, generic, safe. I mailed it, felt relief for about 5 minutes, then went right back into my spiral of, what if this friendship is dead? Did I screw up by texting about the check? Should I have just shut up and let it slide? A week later, Melissa texted me. At first, my heart dropped when I saw her name pop up on my phone. It was just, got your note? Thank you. Sorry for everything. Hope you're doing well. That was it. No explanation. No detail. No acknowledgement of the elephant in the room. I decided to respond. Because I didn't want the silence to stretch forever, I said, I'm glad you got it. I've missed our friendship and I don't want this to be weird between us. I honestly don't care about the money. I was just worried something was going on with your bank. We loved having you at the wedding. It took her a full 2 days to reply, but eventually she wrote, I know I was really embarrassed. Things have been rough for us financially and I didn't handle it well. It wasn't intentional. I just didn't know what to say. And I'll be honest, that broke me a little. Because while I was sitting here stewing about etiquette and thank you notes, and whether she secretly hated me, she was probably sitting in her apartment feeling ashamed and overwhelmed. We ended up having a long phone call that night. She explained that David had been out of work for months, their savings were gone, and the wedding trip itself had stretched them way past their limits. She wrote the check intending to move some money around before we cashed it, but then forgot. And by the time we deposited it, 6 weeks later, it just wasn't there. When I texted her, she panicked, ignored it, and then couldn't figure out how to walk it back. It was messy, but it was human. I told her I didn't care about the check. I told her I loved the card and that was enough for me. I also admitted that her silence had hurt me more than the bounced gift itself. She apologized again and again. We're not magically back to how we were in college. Friendships don't reset that easily. But it felt like we cracked open a window after months of sitting in a stuffy room where we stand now. Melissa and I text a little more now. Not every day, not even every week. But it's not dead silence anymore, Alex. My husband is still skeptical. He thinks what she did was tacky and doesn't want me to invest too much in rebuilding things, but he's also not the type to hold grudges, so he hasn't made it a big deal. David apparently still hasn't found stable work. And Melissa hinted they may have to move in with her parents soon. So yeah, they're clearly in survival mode. I don't know if Melissa and I will ever get back to being close friends. But I do know I don't want one awkward financial mistake to be the nail in the coffin. At the end of the day, what I learned is that sometimes people's silence isn't rejection. Sometimes it's shame. And sometimes just reaching back out instead of assuming the worst is all it takes to get clarity. So thank you, Reddit, for pushing me to handle this with kindness instead of pettiness. You were right. Final update. My wedding check bounced. What to say on the thank you note? Hey everyone, circling back one last time. It's been several months since my last update about Melissa and David, and I figured I'd give the final chapter to this little saga. After that phone call, where Melissa opened up about their finances, things slowly thawed between us. We texted here and there, but the real test came when our old college group, about 6 of us, decided to plan a casual reunion weekend in Chicago. I was nervous about going, Since this would be the first time I'd see Melissa in person since the wedding, when she walked into the Airbnb, we hugged right away. It wasn't awkward like I feared. It was emotional. She whispered, "I'm so sorry again," and I just told her it was okay, that I was glad she came, and I meant it. Over the weekend, Melissa seemed lighter. She admitted she'd been carrying so much embarrassment that she thought I hated her. I told her what I shared in my last update. That I didn't care about the money, only about the silence. We cleared the air fully. David didn't come to Chicago, which honestly was for the best. He and Alex, my husband, never fully clicked. And Melissa admitted things between her and David had been rocky because of the financial strain. That weekend was more about her reconnecting with old friends than anything else. Since then, Melissa and I have settled into what I'd call a low-maintenance friendship. We're not best friends texting every day, but we're back, in each other's lives. We send memes, check in on birthdays, and if we're in the same city, we'll grab lunch. As for the infamous check, it's become sort of an inside joke between me and Alex. Whenever something goes wrong with the bank or a bill, he'll say, "Well, at least it didn't bounce like Melissa's check." It makes me laugh now instead of cringe looking back. I think the whole situation taught me something I wouldn't have learned otherwise. Embarrassment makes people act weird, but that doesn't mean they don't care. Melissa cared enough to drive out, dress up, and celebrate with us. The money was never the point. So final word. Melissa and I are good. Not what we once were, but not lost either. And honestly, that feels like the right ending. And with that, I'm officially retiring the bounced check wedding saga. Thanks to everyone who reminded me to lean into compassion instead of resentment. You all kept me from burning a bridge I didn't want to lose. Stories number 11. Daughter cried during D&D. My wife is furious even though the game ended beautifully. All right, Reddit, buckle up. This is going to be long because it's about 3 years worth of backstory, a single session that went sideways. And the fallout in my house since then. I, Eric, 38M, have been running a D&D campaign for my daughter, Lily, 11F. Since she was about 8, I've been her dungeon master, her guide, her narrator, her villain, and, most importantly, the one playing all 5 of her party members. She's the only human player, but through these characters she's had companions, mentors, and best friends for years. It started out as a fun way to bond, but it turned into something much bigger than I ever imagined. For context, Lily's character is named Ilara, a scrappy street thief who turned into a reluctant hero. Early on, I wrote in that Ilara's soul had been severed by a dark god. It was a hook that gave her story this looming shadow and sense of destiny over time. Her companions grew too: Marcus, the stubborn paladin with a dry sense of humor, Rowan, the gentle healer who believes in everyone's goodness, Cassian, a cocky rogue who hides a heart of gold, Lyra, the bard who tells their story back to them in song, Garrick, the grumpy but loyal warrior who treats Ilara like his kid sister. These aren't just NPCs. Lily talks about them at dinner like they're real people. When she draws, she sketches them. When she's nervous before a test, she'll say, "What would Ilara do?" So yeah, these characters matter. The big bad of this arc has been a hag named Morwenna Lily, and her party have been chasing her for months in real time. This hag kidnapped villagers, cursed allies, and always managed to slip away just when they thought they had her cornered. Morwenna became the kind of villain you love to hate. Now fast forward to last night's session. My wife, Claire, 36F, happened to be in the room this time, working on her laptop while half listening. She's not a gamer, but she's always been supportive. The setup. Ilara and her party finally track Morwenna to what they believe is her lair. The group is hyped. Lily is practically bouncing in her chair, ready for this boss fight she's been waiting on for months. They get inside, only to find the lair abandoned. No hag. Instead, there's a magical prison with a young girl trapped inside. This girl, Maisie, has been an NPC friend of Ilara's party, a child they've sworn to protect. There's also a letter from Morwenna, and this is where I maybe messed up. The letter said, "Choose your sorrow. Free the child if 2 of your companions die in her place, or give your life to save hers. Time runs short." The trap was designed to kill Maisie. unless this condition was met. At first, Lily went into problem-solving mode. She had Ilara and the party test everything. Spells, brute force, clever tricks. Rowan tried a healing spell. Garrick attempted to smash the prison. Lyra sang a counter melody. Nothing worked. Every attempt failed. Then it got quiet. Lily's face changed from determination to panic. She whispered, "There's no way out, is there?" And then she started crying. Not big sobs at first, just quiet tears as she stared down at her dice. Marcus offered himself up in character. Rowan said he'd gladly give his life for Maisie. Cassian cracked a joke to hide his fear. All these companions Lily has grown to love were basically saying, "We'll die for her." My wife looked up from her laptop at this point and gave me the mom look. You know, the one that says, "You better fix this." But I stayed in DM mode. I let Lily feel the weight of it. I told her gently that yes, she had companions willing to sacrifice, but she could also choose to end her own story here. Ilara's final heroic act. That's when she broke down, full sobbing now. She choked out, "I can't let them die." Claire stood up and said sharply, "Eric, stop. She's 11. This isn't fun anymore." I told Lily we could take a break. She nodded and went to her room. Claire immediately told me I'd gone too far, that I should have given her an out, a solution that didn't involve trauma. She said, "She's a child. This isn't a movie, don't make her suffer for your story." I argued that the stakes are what make the story meaningful, and that cheapening it would rob Lily of the payoff she deserves. Claire was furious. After a few minutes, I went to check on Lily. She was curled up on her bed, still teary. But when I asked how she was, she whispered, "I know what I'm going to do." We came back to the table. In character, Ilara stepped forward and said, "I can't live with myself if I let you die." And she touched the hag's device. I changed the music to this haunting ethereal track. I narrated how Ilara saw herself from outside her body, her soul blazing with light, and how this ultimate act of sacrifice restored the broken pieces of her being. The dark god's severed bond shattered, her soul returned, and the prison collapsed. Maisie was freed, and Ilara not only survived, but was finally whole for the first time in years. Lily's face went from devastation to shock to pure joy. She literally jumped from her chair, crying and laughing at the same time, and hugged me so hard I almost toppled over. "She's alive! She's whole!" she shouted. I'll admit it, I was crying too. 3 years of story culminated in this moment, and it was beautiful. But when I looked over, Claire's arms were crossed. She was not impressed. Later she told me, "You traumatized our kid for a D&D story." "Don't act like that was some heartwarming moment," she was sobbing. I tried to explain that the payoff only worked because Lily felt the weight of the choice, that storytelling is about real emotions, and that Lily ultimately ended the night feeling triumphant. Claire wasn't having it. She said, "She's 11. You don't need to give her existential crises for fun." Now I'm torn. On one hand, that moment with Lily was one of the most powerful bonding experiences we've ever had. She got to feel the despair of sacrifice and then the euphoria of triumph. On the other hand, my wife is still angry, and I can't tell if I crossed a line that's where I'm at. Did I push my daughter too hard for the sake of storytelling? Or was this exactly the kind of cathartic experience D&D is meant to give? That's the story. It's been a couple of days since this session, and Lily has been sketching Ilara non-stop, drawing her with her soul glowing. She keeps telling me that was the best game ever. Meanwhile, Claire is still cold toward me, insisting I was reckless. I feel like I gave my daughter a memory she'll carry for life, but I might have also pissed off my wife in the process. So Reddit, what do you think? Update. A few days after the D&D meltdown, so it's been about a week since the infamous Choose Your Sorrow session, and things have developed. First off, Lily 11F is still on cloud 9. She's been living and breathing Ilara's story. Every day after school she runs to me with some new idea for what Ilara does now, that her soul is whole again. She's drawn Ilara glowing with light, Ilara hugging Maisie, Ilara standing victorious over Morwenna. She even made me print out official character sheets for Marcus, Rowan, Cassian, Lyra, and Garrick, so she could keep them in a binder like they're real people. The moment that Had her sobbing in the middle of the session? She talks about it now like it's her favorite scene in a movie. She keeps telling me, "That was the hardest choice Ilara ever made, but it made her strong." So from her perspective, it was 100% a win now. The other side of things. Claire, my wife, 36F, she's not on board at all. When she tucked Lily into bed that night, she told me later Lily was still teary. And Claire felt like I put her through something unnecessary. Her exact words to me were, "She cried so hard she had hiccups." Eric, that's not a bonding moment. That's you traumatizing her for a plot twist. We've had multiple arguments about it since I keep saying Lily came out of it joyful, that the tears were part of the catharsis. Claire says I'm rationalizing, and that just because Lily recovered doesn't mean I didn't put her through the ringer. It came to a head when we had dinner with my parents and my brother, Alex, 34M. Lily brought her binder of character sheets to show everyone and recap the whole Ilara sacrificed herself story. She told it like an epic tale, complete with hand gestures and voices. Everyone was floored. My mom teared up and said, "Wow, that's beautiful." Alex, who used to DM in college, said, "Man, Eric, you gave her the real deal. That's what makes D&D unforgettable." Claire just sat there stone-faced. Later that night she told me, "Your family doesn't see her sobbing in her room. They just see the shiny, happy ending." I started to wonder if maybe I really had gone too far. I mean, it was brutal in the moment I watched my kid sob like her world was ending. That image doesn't leave you easily, but here's the thing. Lily hasn't once said she was upset with me. She hasn't shown any fear of playing again. If anything, she's more excited than ever. She asked if we can run a bonus session next weekend where Ilara has to deal with the hag's final curse to test the waters. I gently asked her if that scene with the prison was too much. She said, "It was scary, but it made me feel like Ilara's choices matter. I wouldn't want it any other way." Then she shrugged like it was the most obvious thing in the world and went back to drawing Rowan singing a song of victory. So I'm at this weird crossroads. On one side, I have my daughter, the actual player, saying she loved it, that it was the best session we've ever had. On the other side, I have my wife saying I crossed a parenting line and treated our child's emotions like playthings. For now, I've made a compromise. I promised Claire that the next few sessions will be lighter, more adventure and puzzles, and less moral despair and child sacrifice. Lily's already designing her own dungeon full of riddles for me to solve, so that might be a fun palate cleanser. But the bigger issue is between me and Claire. She still doesn't fully trust me to run this game without pushing Lily too far emotionally. I told her I see her point, but I also think kids can handle heavy storytelling, and sometimes it's the heavy stuff that sticks with you the most. Claire said, "She's not a grad student in a literature seminar. She's a little girl. So yeah, I don't think we've resolved this. Lily is thriving, and I'm proud of the story we created together. But Claire is still looking at me like I'm the villain. Not sure if time will prove me right, or if I'll look back one day and think, yeah, maybe making an 11-year-old sob in a D&D game wasn't my finest parenting moment." Final update, months later. It's been about 6 months since the infamous Choose Your Sorrow session, and a lot has happened. First things first. Lily, 11F, is still all in on D&D. She has not burned out, gotten bored, or pulled away from it. If anything, the campaign is woven into her daily life more than ever. Her character Ilara is now basically her alter ego. She's written little in-character diary entries, sketched dozens of portraits, and even convinced her art teacher to let her design a comic strip about Ilara's adventures for school. At this point, Ilara is no longer the rogue thief with a cursed soul. She's become a knight of the realm, the protector of Maisie, and the de facto leader of her adventuring party. Lily talks about her like she's a real person. And yeah, she still brings up the sacrifice moment as the turning point that made Ilara whole. She's framed it as the moment her hero became more than just a character. So for her, no regrets. Not one now. Claire, 36th. This was trickier. For a while after that night, Claire sat out of our sessions. She didn't want to be in the room. She said it was too stressful to watch Lily get that emotionally overwhelmed, even if the ending was positive. For a while, I thought this was going to be a permanent wedge. like she'd never be okay with the fact that I put our daughter through that kind of stress for a game. But something shifted about 2 months ago. Lily had a school writing assignment. Describe a moment when you faced a hard decision. Instead of writing about real life, she wrote about Ilara choosing to sacrifice herself. The essay was raw but powerful. She wrote about how scary it was, how much it hurt, and how proud Ilara was of herself. At the end, she wrote, "Even though it was only a game, it made me braver in real life. Because if Ilara could do the hardest thing and be okay, maybe I can too." Her teacher was so impressed. She called us in for a parent meeting. Not because of concern, but because she said it was one of the strongest pieces of writing she'd ever seen from a student that age. She even asked if she could keep a copy for next year's class as an example. Claire read the essay. She cried. That was the moment she admitted she'd been wrong to assume the experience was just trauma. She said, "I didn't realize she was processing it like that." Since then, Claire's warmed up. She still has boundaries. She asked me not to put Lily in any more no-win child sacrifice traps for a while, fair enough. But she now sees it as more than just a game. She even sat in on our last session and helped role-play a shopkeeper, which cracked Lily up. As for me, I've learned something too. I do need to be careful not to push too far. Just because Lily can handle big emotions doesn't mean I should regularly push her into crying fits for dramatic effect. But I also feel validated that storytelling, so even for kids, can include weight, consequence, and catharsis. The funny epilogue? Lily now wants to DM. She's been drafting her own campaign where I play a character and she controls the world. Her first villain? A hag who traps people in impossible choices. I swear she's trolling me. So yeah, final verdict. Lily got one of the most meaningful experiences of her young life. Claire and I worked through a big parenting disagreement, and our family's closer for it. What started as, maybe I traumatized my daughter, turned into one of the most creative and connective things we've ever shared. If you'd told me 6 months ago that this whole drama would end with my kid teaching me how to play, I wouldn't have believed it. But here we are.